Peace, everybody. You're listening to the Classroom and the Cell podcast with Marc Lamont Hill, and with me is
Mumia Abu Jamal.
Man, I don't know how you able to keep that deep, serious voice when you do your intros, man. You've been consistent for 40 years with that, man. I feel like a goofball, and you be in there all Mumia Abu Jamal. You work on that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Radio was something I studied, not like professionally or in school, but like when I had my first job at a radio station in Philadelphia, man, I was the equivalent of a copy boy in a newsroom.
Yeah.
I would pull the wire services, call the police stations all around the city and check and see what was happening, and whatever the anchors and reporters needed. So I would, when I wasn't doing that, I'd be like listening to them and taping them and studying them. So it was better than going to a school, because I was sitting there like, damn, this guy's good.
Man.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because I'm thinking about you as you talk about your journalistic training. I was reading earlier today a piece you wrote in 1982 about Christmas. You were talking about, I'm sure you remember the piece, it was long, it was a little different than your normal style in terms of the sentence structure and how much detail you went into, but it was your first Christmas incarcerated, first Christmas in a cage, man. I got two questions for you about that, man, because I want to get your reflection. The first thing is more on the personal level. We talked in an earlier podcast, I believe it was the second one, about the loss of your beloved wife, Wadia, and the loss of your beloved daughter, Samia, in December. But December is also when you got locked up. What does, when you think about spending 4 decades incarcerated, wrongfully convicted, does Christmas conjure anything for you? Does this time of year make that sting more or less, or is that not even on your mind anymore?
This is a call from
Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution, Mahanoy.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
I'm glad we had the little interruption. It allowed me to think a little bit. But you remember the movie Groundhog Day?
Yeah.
That's what prison is, man. Groundhog Day. And to cats who've been down for a long, long time, every day is the same. And that's one of the secrets, tricks of prison, because the administration never wants change.
Right.
So the only change that occurs in prison is the change that men and women in prison do within themselves. Right? Actuate and activate within themselves. To study, to grow, to learn, to be, to love, and to struggle and to continue existence. But, it don't come from the outside in. It comes from the inside out. That's real.
That's real, man. Since you've been incarcerated, Christmas has changed a lot. It's gotten even more, if you can believe it, commercialized. It's become even more bound up in capitalism. Black Friday used to start after you ate your grandmama's Thanksgiving dinner. Now they be starting at the beginning of November. They got Cyber Mondays, Black Fridays. Everything is online. It's pre-Thanksgiving, and Christmas has never been about the Advent. It's never been about the birth of Christ as a historical figure or religious figure. It's always been about transforming or exploiting a religious holiday for to make money. But also in those 40 years that you've been incarcerated, 42 years, we've also seen the rise of alternatives. More black folk have embraced the cultural nationalist tradition of Kwanzaa. We may not have held on to the political nationalist project as effectively, but we damn sure held on to the cultural nationalist project. Yeah. So talk to me about both of those things. One, what does Christmas mean to you, and how should black people think about it?
Well, Christmas was not ever...
This is a call from
Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution, Mahanoy.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
Once again, thank you.
Getting a lifeline.
Holiday, it was a holiday, but it was a holiday of, think about our ancestors, in bondage. it was a break from work. You dig what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
in that sense, it was a holiday, but it really wasn't a break from work if you really think about it, because while cats might not have been in the fields, their mothers and grandmothers and their wives and daughters would be working in the kitchen.
Right.
And work is work, wherever it happens. But, I remember as a child, Christmas, but, it wasn't like a great thing for me. I mean, of course, you get these toys, and toys are gone like broke a week later.
Right.
The boys are rough on stuff. But, I remember when my kids were very young, we did the Kwanzaa thing. Because
you were early adopter.
Yeah. But it was like an opportunity to talk about our people's history and ideas, for the 7 days, and they remember that, and that had far more meaning because it really was a black creation or recreation. You dig? That talked about what our people have been going through. And,
let me ask you a question about that. As somebody who came up in the Panthers and somebody who came up in the black radical tradition, was it difficult to embrace Kwanzaa given the very complicated history that Maulana Karenga, the founder and creator of Kwanzaa, has to the Panthers, to black radical traditions? There are people who see him as a traitor. There's people who see him as a sellout. There are people who see him as an enemy.
Well, it was very difficult, but guess what? It, in terms of a way to frame a bigger picture and to talk about, black history, black struggle, in that space where everything is everything, on TV and radio, and the newspapers is projecting this false kind of Christmas idea. I mean, forget the fact that, Jesus wasn't born on December the 25th.
Wasn't even born in December, right.
Or in December. I mean, you dig? Like, this was more authentic, you dig? And it was more, I had to look beyond the political and embrace the cultural, and as a tool of teaching kids and talking to the kids, and giving them something to hold on to that was more authentic to their history and their and I mean, the personal is political, okay?
Yeah.
But we had to go beyond that because that was a contribution, you did?
Yeah.
And, even years later, when I think back to, the wars we went through, the point of fact, we were tripping a lot because culture is a tool, you dig? And culture can sometimes be the first note of a revolutionary opera, if you dig what I'm saying. You dig?
Yeah.
Culture can carry ideas that people need, right, to get through this thing, but also to continue to struggle.
Right, like unity, self-determination, creativity, hope. Those things are powerful. I know Maulana Karenga, and in fact, I recently did a Palestine event with him. And so, I never want to feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. I have engaged him on the Kwanzaa issue, and I have, been a celebrator of Kwanzaa, both in my personal life, but more importantly, kind of publicly, extolling the value and virtue of Kwanzaa. I haven't dug deeply into the history of Maulana Karenga in the 60s and 70s. I know it's a very complicated, fraught, messy moment. And so, I need to do that reading. But for me, the legitimacy of Kwanzaa does not hinge upon Karenga or about any particular ideological camp. There was a time, and we talk about this in our book, The Classroom in the Cell, where the political nationalists and the cultural nationalists were at war for who was going to win. And, all that stuff matters, but in a way, it doesn't at the level of practice. We can make our traditions what we want them to be. And I think it's important. Yeah, and I think it's important to disconnect capitalism from our tradition, exploitation from our tradition.
That's right. That's right.
And, but remind ourselves of the value of the Nguzo Saba or other traditions. I don't care what tradition it is. We've been giving gift giving. We've been doing gift giving during the winter solstice. Sorry, it's my son talking in the background. We've been doing gift giving during the winter solstice since long before there was a Jesus, a Christianity, or anything else. African people have always had these kinds of traditions, and so
absolutely.
We morphed them into this historical moment and into this geographic location. But we, as a people, I'm talking about black people, but really we could talk about oppressed people everywhere. We shouldn't be ashamed to make up new holidays and to craft new traditions that respond to our conditions on the ground right now.
Think about this. What people in America have been the center of cultural transformation greater than black people?
Right.
Europeans came here and carried traditions straight from Europe, carried instruments straight from Europe. African Americans took European instruments and made sounds on. Think about Jimi Hendrix on a guitar. He made sounds that ain't never been heard before. You did?
Right. Repurpose the instrument.
And all these cats, they did that too. Then think about Miles, who created art forms. He went to Juilliard and said, "Man, y'all can't teach me nothing."
Right.
And walked out. And he was right. He was a freaking genius.
Shit, man, jazz itself is a repurposing of those instruments. The bass wasn't supposed to do that. The piano wasn't supposed to be used in the service of that. You know what I mean? The trap set wasn't supposed to be playing them kind of rhythms, not them syncopated rhythms, But like you said, we made it do what it do and what it needed to do.
Do what it do, man, and it's still doing it. You dig? I love you, man. It's great to hear you. I heard your son, blessing you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Always been
young Malcolm loves you, and he loves to hear Uncle Moo. When you laugh or he can hear the smile in your voice, man, he lights up too, man. He's smiling right now listening to your voice, man. So I'm gonna put this boy to bed, brother. I love you, man. But I also want to say, because you'll never say it, but I'm gonna say it. December is a month, just like Black August is an important month in our struggle. December is a black milestone. It's a global milestone because it's the month where you were stolen from us, and we are going to fight with every breath we have, every beat of our hearts, every drop of blood in our body, every drop of energy in our spirit, to make sure that you come home, and we're going to yell free you till we see you, my brother.
I love it. Thank you. And happy holidays to you, brother.
Happy holidays, man. Love you, man. On the move.
On the move.
The caller has hung up.
All right, everybody, you just listened to another episode of the Classroom and the Cell podcast with Marc Lamont Hill and Mumia Abu Jamal. If you love this podcast as much as we hope you do, hit the subscribe button on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. Also, hit the join button so that we can support and expand the platform. Every dollar generated from this podcast goes directly to the Mumia Abu Jamal Defense Fund and other needs for Mumia Abu Jamal. So if you want to support Mumia through this podcast, not only subscribe, but also hit the join button and become a member of the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. Thank you, and happy holidays.